Їм потрібно звуки тварин української фауни. Свиней, коней, вівців. За кожен запис платять 25 канадських доларів.
Рахівський крижень.
Джеймі запросить тебе на роботу в Канаду. Якщо ти запишеш, як ця качка співає.
Це ж моя нова мрія.
Cool.
Я взяла пару вихідних. Хіба ти не радий?
Ага. Вибач.
Бери грибочки, смачні. Жодні звуки не варті того, щоб жертвувати сім'ї.
Це ти так думаєш?
Вадік, коли в тебе останній раз був секс?
Один раз на рік.
Я хочу красиво піти з життя. Нехай мене переїде якась гарна іномарка і все. Вибачте. Ти дурачок, Вадим.
Я не дурачок. Я творець.
У нас лише номера з окремими ліжками.
Ми мама і син. Нам не обов'язково спати разом.
Смійтесь.
Не можу.
А покашляти можете?
Sveiki. Tai aš esu Saulė ir šiandien dabar kalbėsiu su režisierium filmo Neįgarsintos mintys. Jisai yra iš Ukrainos ir jo vardas Antonio Lukich. Taigi, šitam interviu aš atstovauju jaunuosius programerius, apie kuriuos gali daugiau sužinoti mūsų Instagramo paskyroje. Ir apie filmą daugiau. Tai yra komedija. Itin juokinga, taigi tikiuosi, kad šitas interviu taip pat bus smagus. Ir sakau, labas. Hello, Antonio.
Hello, Saulė.
So thank you very much for joining us in our virtual film festival.
Yeah, it's a unique experience, you know, for me. Using Skype for the first time in my life, as I mentioned.
Yeah, so that's nice. And so I think we can begin the interview, and for starters, I would like to ask, what's the cinema scene like in Ukraine?
What cinemas? Sorry, can you repeat, please?
What's the cinema scene like in Ukraine? Can you tell us more about it?
About my experience to make a cinema in Ukraine, yeah?
Yes.
It actually was very hard, but I used to joke that getting financial is the easiest part, you know, of production, because we just won the pitching, you know, competition, and after there actually become a hard part of production, because I used to say that we have a lot of good people in cinema industry, but not a lot of good professionals. So that's why maybe it become hard for me as a debut director, you know, to produce film.
Mm-hmm. And what's the importance of cinema is for young people in Ukraine?
Actually, I used to speak with some young people. They do like my film, and I'm not sure, but the audience of people who go to the theaters are a little bit elder audience. So I'm not sure that the youngsters like 16 years or 18 used to go to the cinema, you know. But our film is kind of film that people, I mean, every group of people satisfied with our film, because we made it in the way that people. We try to satisfy everyone's. Sorry for my English. People see what they want to see. Some people like to cry watching part with mom. Some people like to laugh watching part with animals, maybe, or with monks. So everyone was happy. We have a great distribution here. Our audience was 100,000 people in Ukraine, and my life definitely now divides in two parts: before distribution and after I become a bit famous here. I lost control on my Facebook page. Everyone was writing me down their feelings about film, and actually it's great, but I wasn't prepared for this, for a huge amount of interviews and so on, and I'm starting now to say bad words, so maybe we can continue speaking about something more pleasant.
Okay, so do you have any big film festivals in Ukraine?
Big film festivals, we definitely have one. It's Odessa Film Festival. It's like Eastern Europe Cannes. It's not very old festival. It's like 10th edition this year. But Odessa Film Festival, I used to recommend this festival. We had a lot of great guests who made their master classes. We had John Malkovich here. We had Todd Solondz, for example, one of my most favorite directors. Yeah, so it's by the sea, and Odessa is a city with a huge history. A lot of famous people are origins from Odessa, like Leonardo DiCaprio or Isaac Babel and so on. So this one. Also, we have a great documentary film festival, Docu Days it's called. So I also recommend it.
Okay, and talking about your movie, My Thoughts Are Silent, how did the idea to make this film come?
It's actually a film based on real events. My friend was working as a freelancer. Unfortunately, after he finished his study, he did not know what he wanted to do, and he was a sound recordist, sound director. Yes, and once he got an unusual order, really, from the site Upwork to record sounds of animals of Ukrainian fauna, and he took his dad, and they went through the villages, provoking pigs and cows to make sounds. And during the provoking, they speak about sense of life. So I used to think, what a beautiful occasion, to spend some time with parents. And that's become the basement for my future script development. I start with this real story, but I've changed that for mom in some moment because it was important for me to make a woman hero in this movie. In Ukraine, it's actually easier to make because a woman is a real hero here. We have not very much good men, if I can say in that way, and they are not very. When you see a man hero in the movie, you don't believe in this. When you see a woman, you just believe in everything. And there is actually a huge generation of young people who raised by single moms. So that's why I changed that for mom. Yeah. So it is also based on real events. Yeah.
Okay. But you wanted to display the traditional family of Ukrainians or more of your own experience?
Well, I think it's like traditional because when there is a full family with mom and dad here in Ukraine, it's just not like it not looks like normal. For me, normal is families without full amount of parents. For me, it's just normal. So that's why maybe people used to empathize, to the main hero in the film. Yeah, and my relations with mom was the basement for develop the storyline with mom, actually, because once I just sit down and write all the bad things, all the super offensive things that I used to said to my mom, and all the things that I wanted to say to her, but I can't, and that's become a 17 pages, and that's become just a storyline in this film, a drama part.
Okay, and when you were writing the script, did you already had the cast in your mind? Because the main actor, Andrei Levagovsky, had acted in your previous short film. It was Showering in Manchester. So did it have any influence on how you create the character?
Yes, of course, because Andrei is an actor. He's a person that I know really well, and it was important to me to work with someone that I can manipulate easily. So that's why I took Andrei. He's just the guy who can't say no to you, and it's very easy and comfort to work with such kind of actors. So we did well, and he become like someone who. He become my inner voice, you know, when during I was writing a script, I just hear his voice. He's like, you know, the medium between my thoughts and the character I wanted to show, and what kind of character he is. He's a character who don't fit in any frames. He's a character who just get into the cringe situations, into the he's a character who have an uncomfortable feeling of life, and this uncomfortable feeling is just my feeling of life. So that's why we synchronize with Andrei in that way. I'm not so tall, but I feel this uncomfortableness of life every time I speak with people, every time I go to the subway, and so on and so on. So I think it's really important to write about someone who is you know, the retranslator of your inner feelings of the world. Sorry again for my English. In Russian and Ukrainian I'm a bit smarter.
Your English is all right. So there's one silly question I feel I have to ask. So do you know the exact height of Andrei? How tall is he?
We used to say that it depends on his mood, actually. When he feel good, he's a bit taller, but in the middle, it's like 2 meters and 7 centimeters, which is, I think, normal if you live in Estonia, but in Ukraine, it's he's a tall guy, actually. Or in Netherlands, it's like a normal height.
I don't think it's really normal anywhere, but while talking about the cast, what about Irma Vitovska, who played the mother in?
Yeah, she had the Baltic roots as well.
Oh, so she won the Golden Dukes Award for Best Acting. So how did you find her?
She's she's a famous actress. Here, my mom said to me that I need to take a look on her once. So I just, you know, directors usually meet their actors in the theater or in the cinema, but my mom just sent me a link with interview with Irma in some glamorous TV channel. And that's where I saw her in the first time, actually. So after we speak a bit, and she, you know, the script was the main argument for her to take part in this film. And if she did not take part, I probably would make another movie with another character, not mom. She's the only person who can play mom in this film, because she's an actress with she is an actress with a comedy inner feelings, with a comedy organic, you know. She's a very comedy charisma, and it was a big matter for me to put a dramatic character into such an actress who have a comedy feeling of pronouncing words and so on. So between this I used to make an intonation of her character in this film.
How did you decide to shoot a comedy, and what do you think of the genre in cinema?
It wasn't a comedy in a pure way, but for me, since I was a student in Kiev Film School, you know, for me, when audience is laughing, it's become like the proof that film is good. But when I grow up a little bit, I understand that probably silence after film finishes is much more better proof that people are thinking about something. So I'm not sure. I just like films in the middle of genres. I think they have much deeper feeling of reality, because our reality is not the pure genre. Our reality is like in the middle comedy and drama, and sometimes even tragedy.
But how did you write all the jokes? Did the jokes come naturally, or
jokes.
do you have a method?
Yes, for pessimist and melancholic people, jokes become like naturally. I observe that directors who is optimistic, they used to make a hard drama. They just in life they like to joke, they like to eat well, they like to sleep well, and have a good time. But in their films, usually they just kill animals and small kids. And pessimistic people like to write comedies. I remember Jiří Menzel from Czech Republic director, one of the icons of tragic comedy, and he did make a masterclass during Odessa Film Festival, by the way, and it's called like to make a comedy. It's not a joke, for him, and I agree with this fact.
But what's the difference between humor in TV and film, and where do you prefer working more?
Of course, I prefer working in cinema, but I also like to work in TV. Maybe it's just a different approach, when humor in TV are in the words and humor in cinema are in the pauses between words. I mean, it's just in the when people look at each other in the pauses. So I finish this sentence.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Let's talk more about the movie, and we should avoid any spoilers because the festival hasn't ended yet, and there are still people who wants to see the film. So,
and did people already see film, or they're
yes,
just going to?
Lots of people did, but there are still some who haven't seen it. So, do you feel the connection between yourself and the main character, how he acts, how he feels and thinks?
Yes, of course, because our main character is a classic millennial, guy from a modern society, a guy who lives in the way of rent everything in his life, in the feeling of something very temporary, And of course, I have a huge connection with him, as I've told you already, about an uncomfortable feeling of life and so on, about not understanding what is to live normal life, because we wasn't the generation who actually understand what is this to live a normal life. I mean, here in Ukraine, when you live in a family with a single mom, for example, you just see the example, what is life, what is adult life, and you just build your life as you can see since childhood. I mean, so yes, he's a classic representative of this generation, the same as me. But it's interesting thing that when I wrote a script, my inner voice was the voice of the main character, Andrei. And when I finished the script and finished the film, my inner voice became a voice of mom, a woman who just screamed to him that you should start living normal life. So after the film was finished, I actually started to live a normal life. I have a kid and a family, and just trying to understand what is to be a normal person in a normal society. And it's quite difficult and quite interesting at the same moment.
In the movie, there was also a lot of attention given to the topic of religion. So what's your relationship with church?
My relationships with church, I used to mention the phrase of Louis Buñuel. It's called "Thanks God, I'm still atheist." I mean, I have some doubts in religion and have a lot of questions to the thing we used to call faith. So that's why it's a very important theme for me in the cinema.
The topic of emigration is also talked about in the film, and I have another silly question, because I've noticed that you talk about Canada and in your previous short film too. So what's the connection with that?
Canada is the country that is that is the most far from mom. You know, he just wanted to go somewhere where he will be just as far as possible from mom. You know, and also in Canada there is a huge Ukrainian diaspora, and that's why maybe he thinks that it will be a comfortable country for him. Also, he's a tall guy, you know, and Canada is a big country. It's a country where he will feel comfortable, you know, with his size. Everything is big there, you know, cars, buildings, roads.
Okay, understood. And well, I'd like to ask about the truth in the movie, because it's a consistent motif there. And what exactly does it mean?
The tooth mean our film is sorry, but our film is partly about what is to become adult. You know, what is to become an adult person, about coming of age, if I'm right. But becoming adult is a very painful process, and when you are adult, you have teeth. You can sorry, I forgot this word in English. But I just forgot this word. It's about becoming an adult, you know, to growing up an adult teeth that you can just hit someone, you know, with them. Yes, and also it's a link between Jesus and link between our main hero, because in some way he is a kind of Bible character. He's the person who did not change in any way in this film, but he did change life of people where he is going to come.
Okay.
And also tease and twos, it's a huge theme for me, because when I was writing script, I become like partly a dentist, you know. In some moment I stop watching in people's eyes and just watching to their teeth, you know, and they can tell us a lot about a person, you know. The moment in your life when you are going to put your first dental implant, it's the moment that just gives a feeling what kind of person you are. Are you financially improve yourself? Are you and so on and so on. So yeah, this is very important.
Could you tell us more about the scenes that were shot but not included in the film, the most interesting or funniest ones?
The most interesting and the most funniest scenes are actually not go into the final cut, you know, of the film. And there is also a phrase that film that consists from 7 good episodes may become a better film that consists of 17 genius episodes, you know. And we had like 40 genius episodes, but when you put together everything, it's just impossible to watch, you know. So we just reduce all the genius episodes and take only good episodes, and it gave us a feeling of a solid movie, you know. When you're a debutant, when you're made your first film, it's really important to have a feeling of what is to make a solid film. Yes, and a lot of good episodes. The episode with Raccoon, one of my favorite, you know, episode with dog. We had a very beautiful dog scene in this film, but we reduce it. Fortunately, we reduce it. When people ask where and when can they watch a director's cut, I say it's impossible, because director's cut is impossible to watch. It's just a very boring film that I also don't recommend to see in any way.
Okay, but maybe you have some film directors you look up to?
Of course, I watched a couple of times, like every film a couple of times for example, Jim Jarmusch or Woody Allen, any whole film, Zelig, Broken Flowers by Jim Jarmusch, Coen Brothers. I also like very much documentary film. I used to make documentaries before, and I'm very into the documentary world actually. I adore like a Komiškas film, Viktor Kosakovsky films, Gert Frank as well, but I think he's a Latvian director. He was Latvian, Gert Frank, you know.
So maybe there was specific movies that inspired your own.
For example, I ask everyone in the group to watch Aki Kaurismäki films, to watch Broken Flowers by Jim Jarmusch, because it's like a twin film in the meaning of structure. You have a main hero who is not changing, but he is looking for a sense of life and going from one sketch to another. Also, the Graduate film with Dustin Hoffman, also the film I was asking a group to watch. I'm a big fan of New Hollywood, the cinema of 70s in America. So everyone watched also the Last Picture Show by Peter Bogdanovich, The Paper Moon. Paper Moon also was one of the main references. It's a road movie with two strong characters. The film without a huge intrigue, but with characters that are very interesting to observe, you know. And I believe in that type of cinema without dramatic structure, but with good characters that are interesting and deep, and you just observing them, and it's interesting to watch this film. A lot. I'm a big cinema fan with education, so.
And how did the interest in film started? At what age were you in?
I think after I finished film school, it starts in very late age. When I was going to Kiev Film School, I don't knew who is Federico Fellini, you know. A bit far. We made short films on our phones during school, on Nokia phones, you know. That's it.
So what are your plans for the nearest future? Because you have told another interviewer that you're working on a very serious documentary. Is it true?
I used to work at documentary. It's about sorry, I forgot, sour cabbage, you know, sour cabbage.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it was a bit sauerkraut. It's like cabbage that you're pickled cabbage. You know, I've made a very deep research of this team and was about to make a documentary film, like a long documentary about pickled cabbage. But I wasn't sure I wanted this film to become my second, so I decided to make a pickled cabbage film, like when I will be like 40 and with a middle age crisis, I will make this film. But now I write my second feature right now, and it's actually a very interesting script. But we have now a lot of questions about financing films now in Ukraine. Today there will be a government decision. Will they support culture in this year or not? Because in the case of crisis, they decide to reduce the financing of the culture. And for our culture in Ukraine, for the culture that is now only growing up, you know, just racing, for our culture, it might become a death decision. So it's very pity if it will be in that way. They say that we will build hospitals in the money that we want to support culture, but I hope they will build hospitals. I hope that it will be in that way, not in another way of just taking money and spoil them. So, it was a social moment in my interview now, a bit.
So I hope that everything will be all right, and the Ukraine will support its culture, and we will see your new films. And
Yeah, thank you.
I think we'll be waiting for you next year in our festival too.
Yeah, as I've shown, I have a Vilnius badge from previous year. It's already become one of my favorite festivals. We take part in meeting point Vilnius. It was a great experience actually to show my film in Lithuania, because I think that Lithuania, Czech Republic are countries where realities are a bit understandable for people, for example. And there is also countries where people do not understand reality of the place where heroes are living.
Yeah, the atmospheres are similar in our countries. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me in this interview, and thank you for everything. I think it was a fun interview.
I hope so. I do my best.
I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much again. And
Thank you very much, Saulė, and good luck.
so see you.